Tampa, Florida. A place known for beaches, palm trees, and warm nights. But for metal fans, this city became something far more important. It became the birthplace of one of the most extreme and influential movements in heavy music. This is the story of the Florida death metal explosion and the quiet genius who shaped its sound producer Scott Burns. During the late 80s and early 90s, a wave of young musicians arrived at a small studio that looked like nothing special. Morrisound Recording. Inside those walls, a new musical language was forming. Fast riffs, brutal drums, deep growls, music that felt like a storm pulling itself out of the swamp. At the center stood Scott Burns, a calm, approachable engineer with a passion for clarity, precision, and power. His ability to balance heaviness with clean, detailed production changed the sound of extreme music forever. If you wanted to create a death metal record that mattered, you went to Tampa and you worked with Scott. Scott never wanted fame. He simply loved the craft. But in the world of underground metal, his name became mythical. Bands talked about recording with him the way athletes talk about working with legendary coaches. He pushed musicians to tighten riffs, refine drum parts, perfect tones, and perform at their absolute limit. He created sessions that felt intense, focused, and inspiring. The result was a signature sound. Thick, crushing guitars, punchy drums, vocals that cut through the mix like a blade. Albums that still hold up today with incredible weight. Let us move through 20 albums that shaped the entire genre. These releases defined a generation and continue to influence extreme music around the world. Album 1. Death, Spiritual Healing. A turning point where the production became sharper, more controlled, and far more powerful. Album 2. Death Human, a milestone that helped define technical death metal and set new standards for musicianship. Album 3. Deicide, self-titled, raw aggression and demonic presence captured with brutal clarity. Album 4. Deicide Legion, fast, precise, and frighteningly intense. Album 5. Morbid Angel, Altars of Madness, a groundbreaking debut that changed the direction of extreme metal forever. Album 6. Morbid Angel, Blessed Are the Sick. More atmospheric and more complex, yet still unmistakably deadly. Album 7. Obituary. Slowly We Rot, dirty, heavy, and pure Florida energy. Album 8. Obituary, Cause of Death. Scott gave this album a massive and unforgettable sound. Album 9. Cannibal Corpse, Eaten Back to Life. A chaotic, violent debut shaped into something powerful. Album 10. Cannibal Corpse, Butchered at Birth, one of the heaviest and most controversial albums ever made. Album 11. Cannibal Corpse, Tomb of the Mutilated, a dense, crushing wall of sound crafted with precision. Album 12. Malevolent Creation, The Ten Commandments, fast, furious, and filled with razor-sharp riffs. Album 13. Malevolent Creation, Retribution, more refined, more aggressive, and a perfect example of the Tampa Tone album. 14. Nocturnus, the key technical death metal with keyboards and sci-fi themes. Scott made the whole concept work flawlessly. Album 15. Atheist, Piece of Time, jazz-influenced, complex, and brilliantly mixed. Album 16. Atheist, Unquestionable Presence, one of the most advanced albums of the era, captured with incredible detail. Album 17. Benediction, The Grand Leveler, a bridge between UK death metal and the Tampa Sound album. 18. Suffocation, Effigy of the Forgotten, not recorded at Morrisound, yet shaped with Tampa production methods, a foundation for brutal death metal. Album 19. Napalm, Death, Harmony, Corruption, a shift from grindcore into heavier death metal shaped with Scott Burns' technique. Album 20. Hypocrisy, Penetralia, Swedish chaos mixed with the clarity and impact of the Tampa philosophy. Although Scott eventually stepped away from the music industry, the impact of his work remains. Producers still study the way he layered guitars, triggered drums, balanced mixes, and pushed bands to evolve. His fingerprints can be found on modern death metal, technical metal, brutal metal, and even progressive metal. Without him, the sound of extreme music would be very different. He gave bands the power to be heavy without losing definition. He helped transform underground ideas into genre-defining landmarks. This has been a look into the golden age of Tampa, Florida death metal, a scene that reshaped heavy music forever, and a producer who guided some of the most important albums in metal history. Tell us which album from the Tampa era is your favorite. Tell us what scene you want covered next, and turn the volume up for the final riff.